What's up, guys? It's Lauren and Connor, and welcome to episode 3 of our 0 to 100K Etsy challenge, where our goal is to start a brand new Etsy shop and take it from 0 to 100K as quickly as possible.
Now, most Etsy sellers fail on Etsy before they even get started. It's not because they're lazy, it's not because their designs are bad, but honestly, it's because they're focused on the wrong things. So, in today's video, we're going to be sharing with you guys the exact research process that's helped us achieve nearly $2 million in lifetime sales on Etsy. And we're going to be showing a step by step tutorial so that you can start following that exact research process and start selling with confidence today. What's up, guys? If you guys are watching this, we know that you're giving us your time and your attention, which is your most valuable asset. But why should you listen to us? Well, Lauren and I have done just shy of $2 million in lifetime sales on Etsy. Those two screenshots at the top, those are screenshots of our stats from two of our Etsy shops. Now, Etsy obviously doesn't include the shipping collected in those stats, but that big green number at the bottom, that's our total lifetime revenue as of July 31st, 2025. Lauren and I quit our 9-to-5 jobs over the last 12 months to go all out and go full time on growing our Etsy shops. And so this is what we do full time. We're actively growing and pursuing our business, our Etsy shops here in 2025. And we're making these videos for three main reasons. Number one is to document our journey from where we're at right now, just shy of $2 million, all the way to $10 million and beyond. Up to this point, we haven't done a great job of documenting our journey, but we're starting right now. And so along the way, we're going to be sharing what did work, what didn't work, and what we're actively doing to grow our own Etsy shops. And finally, full transparency, we're selfishly making these videos to attract other Etsy sellers like you who align with our values and who want to work with us to grow their own Etsy shops. So let's get right into the video.
So stay tuned as we'll be giving away something free during this video, and it might be at the end, it might be in the middle, but stay tuned as we're giving something big away.
All right, so in the last episode, we talked about how to choose your product.
In this episode, we're going to talk about the exact Etsy research process that made us $2 million thus far.
So we've broken this down into a 4-step process, which includes number one, finding your top Etsy shops in your product category, compiling all the data on those shops, starting to filter that data, and ultimately identifying those high potential niches within your product category.
So just to give you a quick overview of some of the goals that we find helpful when we do this process and we want to share with you guys is ultimately this is to give you a nice big blueprint of all the high potential niches in your product type. It's also going to give you clarity on what to work on in the future, and it should give you a lot of confidence that you are working on things that are worth your time.
So we're going to dive into each one of these steps in a little more detail. Right now, it's going to be a bit high level, and later in this video, we're going to go into a tutorial style video where we'll go in depth in each part of the process and walk you guys through exactly how we go through this research process. So step one is finding those top Etsy shops. And so if you guys watched episode 2 from this challenge, you know that we found these 3 top shops in the ornament product category. We looked at other products as well, but we're going to focus on ornaments as we identified those as the highest potential product. And so we're going to use these 3 shops from episode 2. But as a note, we wanted to just recommend to you guys, normally when we do this, we look for about 5 to 8 shops. We try and find those top 5 to 8 shops. And it depends on the product type and the product category, how many you can find, but usually somewhere in that range is a good number and gives you a good amount of data to confidently start to learn and become a master in that product category.
So to help us get started, we like to use a research tool called EVERBEE, and this tool just helps us extract the shop data so we can better go through it.
And so what you guys will need to do is you'll want to sign up for one of the paid plans on EVERBEE. Unfortunately, you do have to sign up for one of the paid versions to get the data we need to get that shop data and that sales history from each of the listings in each of those shops. But I promise you that it's well worth your money, and it'll give you that confidence that what you're going to work on is worth your time. And so there's a link down in the description where you guys can go to EVERBEE and sign up for that EVERBEE research tool. And like I said, very much worth your time. It's going to really speed up the process and give you that confidence that what you're working on is worth your time and everything's high potential. So when you're in EVERBEE, and like I said, we'll do a full tutorial on this in more detail. What you're basically going to be looking for is this shop analyzer tool. And that's really one of the only features we use in EVERBEE, but it's so powerful as it gives you that shop data and that sales history, and really just helps you verify demand in the product and all the different niches within that product category. So we use that shop analyzer tool and the product analytics page, and this allows you to export all the shop data. And like I said, I'll show you click by click exactly how to do this later on in this video, but just wanted to highlight this here up front.
So step 2 is to compile all the shop data. So next you'll want to compile all the data into one Google Sheet or an Excel file, and either one of these works great. So whatever works best for you, whatever you're most comfortable with, pick that and they'll work both the same.
And then step 3, once you've compiled that data, you're going to start to filter it down. And so you're going to filter all the data to only include listings in your specific product. For example, in this case, we're looking at just ornaments. So we want to get rid of everything else that's unrelated, as well as trademark infringements or copyrights, things like that, that you obviously don't want to risk your own Etsy business with. And then also listings with 20 lifetime sales, right? So we're going to keep all the listings that have that verified sales history and enough demand out there. And we'll dive into that in more detail, like I said, in the tutorial here in a few minutes.
And number 4 is to identify unique niches. So finally, you'll identify the unique niches that are considered high potential and worth your time.
Cool. So that brings us to the tutorial part of this video. All right, guys, welcome to the tutorial part of this video. We're going to be giving you guys a step-by-step walkthrough of exactly how we build our list and refine our list. And so obviously it's just me now at this part of the video. Lauren and I decided that we thought it would be better off, easier for you guys to digest if it was just one of us talking through this tutorial part. The reason for that is just so we weren't talking over each other, and it's just easier for you guys to digest the information. But one thing we really wanted to highlight is that when we do this process for ourselves, we do it together. And so we sit shoulder to shoulder, just like we did to the first part of this video as we recorded it. And we think it's so important. If you guys do have a partner, or if you have a spouse you're doing this together with, you have a huge advantage, and lean into that advantage, right? Spend the time up front, especially during this part of the process, to do the research together. Don't make the mistake of saying, oh, I'm going to go do the listing photos, you do the research, and we'll get done quicker. I promise you guys that that's not the right approach. We've worked with so many people, and many have tried that approach. And what ends up happening is you're off doing different things. You're not on the same page. And when you get to designing, there's a huge disconnect. And the person who did the research knows the product much better than the person who didn't. And so you don't want to be in that position. If you have two people who are able to do this, do it together. Take the time, spend the hours up front, be on the same page. And I promise it'll serve you in your business and accelerate your growth. So that's just one thing we wanted to highlight before we jumped in. So I'm over here in EVERBEE. I'm logged into our account here. And so the one tool that we like to use in EVERBEE is this shop analyzer tool, which I highlighted earlier in the video. And so I'm in that shop analyzer section. And basically what you'll do is you'll type in the name of each shop. So for example, I would type in Keepsake and I would find the correct shop, which would be this one. And then I would click on that, and it's going to bring me to a new web page here where it's going to give me an overview of the shop. And what we actually like to use is this listings section. And so from here, we would just click this export button and it'll download a CSV, or actually it'll send you an email, and then you can download the CSV from that email. And so I've done this ahead of this video just for the sake of time, but I've searched for each one of these shops. So Keepsake, Honey Ornaments, and Modern Xmas. And so I've exported all three of their shop data, and I've moved that over to my Google Drive here. And so you can see I have each of the CSVs. So I have the Honey Ornaments CSV, the Keepsake CSV, and the Modern Xmas CSV. When I open those, I open them as a Google Sheets file, and that's why you see duplicates of each one. And so what we're going to do is we're going to open up this ornament list, which is just a blank Google Sheets file. And then we're also going to open up each of the 3 of these Google Sheets files. So we'll open up this one for honey ornaments. Here's keepsake. And then finally we have our modern Xmas file. So we'll open all those files in separate tabs. And then we're going to go to our master ornament list here. And so right now it's just a blank file, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to our first shop here and we're going to select all the data. So I'm going to hit Control or Command A if you're on a Mac, and then Control C or Command C to copy. And I'm going to go back to my list and click in this first cell here, A1, and then I'm going to paste everything with Command V or Control V. So that's our first shop. Our next shop here, we're going to do keepsake. And so we don't want to copy these headings again because we already have those, but we want everything else. So I'm going to select row 2 by clicking on the number 2 here. And then what I like to do is use Control Shift and then the down arrow key on your keyboard. And that'll select all the data all the way down to the last row. And so again, we can copy that and then go back to our list here. And we want to scroll all the way down to the bottom and put this in the next cell. So again, we're going to paste this, Control V, and we make sure our columns are aligned. So we have our links, our shop names, everything looks good. We'll go to our third shop here, and again, select row 2, Control Shift and down key. That'll select everything. We'll copy that, and we can go to the bottom of our list here, and we can paste this one in the empty cell. And this will be our honey ornaments. And so what we're left with is about 1,400 listings. I'm actually going to add a couple thousand here just to make sure we have everything captured. And it looks like we probably do. About 1464. So what did we have? We had, I'm just going to make sure we have all the data here. So 165 plus 400 and then plus 900. So yeah, that seems about right. It looks like we have everything in that one file. So now we can close these 3 files. Everything's now in our master list. And so what I'm going to do from here is I like to freeze this top row. And so I'm just going to select row 1 and I'm going to go to View and freeze, and I'm just going to hit 1 row. And so that just allows you to scroll and you can still see the headings, which is helpful. And so next from here, we want to clean up this file a little bit. EVERBEE gives you a ton of data. A lot of it isn't really that useful. And for this part of the process, we really just use a few of these columns. And so the things that are important are the product name, the product link, the shop name, and the total number of sales, so the estimated total sales. This is our column that we're really going to reference and gives us that confidence. It's that proven sales history, right? That gives us confidence that there's demand and what we're working on is worth our time. And so while it's just an estimate, EVERBEE does a really good job of estimating those total sales relative to other listings. So if you look at shop data from a collection of shops and you sort them in order, EVERBEE does a very good job of putting those in order from the most sales to the least sales. Now, the number is not perfectly accurate. It's just an estimate, but it's the best way and the fastest way to verify that demand. And like I said, give you that confidence that what you're working on is high potential and worth your time. And so we're going to start to hide a bunch of these other columns. And so I'll select those columns. And then I'm just going to hide these columns, and we'll keep total sales. I'm going to hide the rest of these. So J through, I don't know, all the way to the end of the tags. We really don't need any of these other columns right now. It just adds confusion and really don't need to be looking at those right now. So what we're left with is these 4 columns. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 columns. So I like to put them right here in my sheet. In this first column, I'm going to call this a niche column. And so I like to just center it. It's easier for me to read. And then this second column, this is going to be my delete column. And so this is where I'm going to start to eventually filter out all the non-related products, all the duplicates, all the trademark infringements. Like if you guys start to see things with Disney or obvious trademark infringements, obviously you don't want to do that in your own shop and risk your shop getting shut down. So you'll start to delete those out. Now I like to use this column rather than completely deleting each row when I'm going to delete out a listing, because I like to always be able to get back to my list. And in episode 4, we'll actually talk in detail about using this list in a different way, and we'll go back to our original list, and having this delete column allows us to do that. So that's the reason for that. And so from here, we can refine our list a little bit more, right? And so if you guys have taken a look at all at Keepsake Shop, you'll know that they do have some other products in there. The honey ornaments and the modern Xmas, I think they were close to 100% ornaments, but Keepsake, I think, had some tumbler products. And so we want to make sure we get rid of those. And so what I'm going to do here is I am going to select all these columns and I'm going to add a filter. And so to do that, you'll select all the columns and you'll hit create filter. So this just allows you to start to sort and filter out different things in each of the columns. And so what we're going to try and do is filter out all the products that are non-ornaments. And so to do that, we're going to filter by column on this first column. And we're going to say the text does not contain ornament, the word ornament, because that's the obvious word that's going to be part of every listing that is an ornament, right? And so we'll do this, and what you're going to see is we're going to start to see some shirts. And so this one, I guess, is a shirt, funny shirt. This one's tumblers. And so we're seeing products that are non-ornaments, basically, which is what we want. And so we're going to add an X to all of these listings. So we'll drag this down. Something like that. And then we can clear this filter, set it to none, and then it'll show us all the listings as well as the ones that we've marked as an X. And so from here, we can go to our delete column and we can filter out all the X's. And so what we're left with is just products that contained that word ornament. So we're just looking at ornament listings, which is the product we're focused on. And so the next thing we want to do here is sort by the total number of sales. And so we're going to sort from Z to A to do that. And that'll give you the list of the ornaments from highest number of sales all the way down to lowest number of sales. And so some of these listings have absolutely crushed it, right? Almost 45,000 sales, 25,000 sales over the life of that listing. And like I said, it's an estimation, but the longer the life of the listing, usually the more accurate EVERBEE gets. And so there's some really good ornaments here, a lot of good data. We're learning from hundreds and hundreds of listings here. And so we can learn a lot from these. And so the next thing that I like to do is start to filter out all the listings that are below 20 lifetime sales. And 20 lifetime sales is kind of a rough number. It's, like I said, these are just estimates, but in our experience, around 20 lifetime sales gives us a good line, a good cutoff point where above that we can confidently say, you know, these listings have high potential, they're worth our time. We should also probably have a listing in that niche in our shop. And so below that it becomes less and less worth your time. One thing I want to highlight is don't overlook these lower estimated total number of sales, right? Like all the way down to 20. EVERBEE, like I said, can severely underestimate the lifetime sales. And if we pull our own shop data, sometimes that's, 5, 10x off. And so that 20 is really like 100 sales or more. It might be 200 sales. And so especially if it's a newer listing, it can very much underestimate those lifetime sales. And so 20 is just that rough estimate, that rough line in the sand where we like to cut off those listings. And so what we're going to do is add an X to all the listings below 20 lifetime sales. You can go a little further down if you want to do more work and filter through more of the data, but in our experience, around 20 is a good sweet spot. And so I'm going to add an X to everything below 20. And so when we do this, we get rid of a lot of listings, right? And the assumption here is these are the lower performing listings. These are most of the time duplicates and just the ones that haven't performed as well. And so we're going to prioritize the listings that have performed the best. And in this case, anything above 20 lifetime sales is going to be our cutoff. And so from here, we can filter these X's out again by clicking on that filter and then OK. And so what we're left with, we'll see how many listings we have. It looks like 600, 700, about 700 listings that we're left with. So that's a good amount to go through, right? And so if you had a few more shops, if you get up to that 5 or 8 number of shops, you'd probably have a few hundred or into the thousands number of listings. And so sometimes when we do this, depending on the product category, sometimes we're left with about 3,000 listings, and it can be a very tedious process to filter through. And so what we're going to start to do is essentially we're going to open up each listing and we're going to ask ourselves the question of what is the niche? What is the micro market? If I was the customer and I was looking for a product like this, what are the 2 or 3 words that I would search for in the Etsy search bar to find this product? And that's how we identify the niche, right? We care very little about the design right now. We might start to make mental notes and just remember all the common design attributes that keep coming up that may be good to start to absorb. But right now we're really focused on the niche and the micro market. And so one thing I want to highlight here is many of you guys out there are probably very skilled with Excel or Google Sheets, and you know how to make pivot tables, and you're really good with data analysis and just filtering through spreadsheets. One thing I want to say here is this is not the time to nerd out like that, right? I'm guilty of it, but it's not the time to go crazy like that. This is the time to get your hands dirty and get into the weeds and go one by one. It's a tedious process, but the only way you're going to start to learn the product category better than anyone is to do the work and to spend hours and hours and hours digging through each of the listings. And so there's no shortcuts here. I really, really encourage you guys, don't try and do that. It's only going to hurt you in the long run, right? That you can't shortcut this process. You can't shortcut spending the time in the research and knowing the product better than anyone. And this is the most efficient, the best way that we've found to do it. And so it's not something you guys are going to do in one session. It's not going to take you a couple hours. It's going to take many hours over probably many days. And that's okay. The more time you spend up front, the more confident you're going to be later on. And you're going to achieve those goals that we talked about, right? You're going to be left with this blueprint, exactly what you know you need to focus on. There's going to be no questions in 3 months or 6 months. Like, what should I work on? It's all going to be right here. And you can very confidently have that clarity. And so we're going to walk through some examples here and give you guys insight into exactly how we do this process. And so we'll start with this first one here. And if you're in Google Sheets, it actually allows you to preview the image, which is a nice little feature. And so it's a little small, but we can see based on the design and the title. And so I really want to encourage you guys, it's important to look at the designs because like I said, you start to subconsciously absorb the design details as well. Even though we're not specifically focused on the designs right now, as you open hundreds and potentially thousands of listings, you start to absorb those things and learn font styles and element positioning and sizing and things like that, colors, all those types of things that are very important to start to master the product category. And so this one to me is a new home ornament. And so we would type in here, new home ornament. And then our second one on the list here, this one actually the preview's not working. And so sometimes it is helpful to go into the listing And so this one is an Our First Christmas Married ornament. So we'll call that First Christmas Married ornament. And then we'll go to our next listing here. So this one is also First Christmas in Our New Home. So I'm going to consider this one a duplicate, even though the designs are very different, right? This one has some green floral and a gold rectangle. And this one has like some line art with a door and some trees. Even those designs are different, they're the same micro market. And so they're targeting the same customer. And so for that reason, I consider them a duplicate. We'll decide on our actual design later on, and we'll get to that in future challenge videos. But right now we're just trying to pull out those unique high potential niches. So we'll keep going here. So this one looks like First Christmas Engaged. It's similar to that married one. First Christmas Engaged ornament. And then we'll go down on our list here. So this one is Our First Christmas as Mr. and Mrs. And so probably very similar to the married ornament, but I think there's a slight difference in the wording here. And so because it's Mr. and Mrs. specifically, I'm going to consider that a unique micro market. So First Christmas as Mr. and Mrs. ornament. And ultimately, guys, as you go down this list, you're going to make those micro decisions to form your list. And you'll make the decisions like what's a duplicate, what's not a duplicate. And you'll form your own list as you become the master in the product category, as you learn it better than anyone else. And the huge benefit of this delete column is you haven't gotten rid of the listing, right? You didn't completely delete it from your sheet. And so as you work down your list, maybe you get to row number 50 or 100 and you realize like, hey, maybe that one above that I considered a duplicate, maybe there was a slight nuance to it now that I've seen others, and maybe I want to consider that as a unique micro market. It allows you to go back up in your list and make those changes and really refine it and become really confident with your list in the end. And so we'll keep going here through more examples. This one looks like a couple's Christmas ornament. There's two names here and then the date. So I'll say couple's ornament. The next one here looks like a family of 3. The picture is a family of 4, but let's see what it looks like. That may have been an older photo. This one obviously is family of 3, and their title is using family of 3 and family of 3 again. So pretty confident that this one is mostly ranking through those keywords, family of 3 ornament. So that'll be our micro market. The next one here is a marriage or a wedding ornament. They're using a calendar. In my mind, that's the same as this First Christmas Married, right? The design's a little different. Obviously, they're using a calendar, but that's a design attribute in my mind. Here we have our Mr. and Mrs. again, so we saw that one. And then our next one here, we have First Christmas Married. And so they have a watercolor type photo here, it looks like. But again, we already have that First Christmas Married. This one looks like a baby's first Christmas. Let's see what the rest of the design looks like. So yeah, the kid's name and then First Christmas with a car. So we'll say baby's first Christmas. And then another engagement one. We've already got that. Again, another engagement. Various designs here, but we don't care about those right now. This one also looks like an engagement ornament. Again, here's that calendar, but we already have engagement. Another new home. And so we're starting to see already there's a bunch of duplicates here. And so as you get further and further down your list, you're going to find more and more duplicates. But I really encourage you guys to go fully down your list, because that's where you're going to find those diamonds in the rough. And like I said, even those lower estimated number of sales, they're often very much so underestimated. And the combination of dozens of those listings adds up to lots and lots of sales, potentially thousands of sales. And so very much worth your time. So this next one here looks like a family ornament. So I'll call this one family ornament. This one looks like a boy's Christmas ornament based on the title and the image we have here. And so obviously they're featuring that dinosaur. But this one's unique, right? We had the baby's first Christmas where it said first Christmas. This, I think, could be for any boy. Maybe it's their first Christmas, or maybe they're just a young toddler or a young boy who's being gifted an ornament. So I'm going to call this one boy's Christmas ornament. And then this next one, another new home, another engagement, another new home, another new home, lots of duplicates. Here's a new one. This looks like a dog ornament, but it says forever loved and has the years. And so to me, this is a dog memorial ornament. That's something new. Here's another baby's first Christmas. So that's a duplicate. New home again. Here's another baby's first Christmas. Another engagement. Let's look at this one. Charlie's first Christmas. So another baby's first Christmas. Another duplicate there. This one looks like a memorial ornament. And so it says in loving memory, and then probably has someone's name and maybe a saying. So we're going to call this one memorial. And then the next one on our list here, another new home. It's obviously very popular. New home. Baby's first Christmas. Okay, here's a new one. Here's a teacher ornament. Our first Christmas together. And so we had couples ornament, but that one just had the names, right? And so I feel like that could be given to any couple. It may be their second or third year dating or together, where this one specifically is like our first year together. So I think that's slightly different micro market, a different customer. Here's our Mr. and Mrs. again. First Christmas married, I believe. Yep, we already have that one. New home we have. This looks like a new one here. So this, God bless you, christened. So it looks like they're focused on a christening, and they do use that keyword. They also use baptism, but I think because they're emphasizing christening and christened and showing that on the front photo, that's probably the keywords they're mostly ranking for. And so we're going to use christening ornament. We may see another one later on that's baptism, and we'll probably identify that as a unique one as well if we do see that. Here's another married one with a calendar. We've seen that a few times. So starting to make some mental notes of that. Calendars seem important. Here's another new home. Our first Christmas together. So we saw that one, but we already got that one. The next one here, another first Christmas together. First Christmas married. We got that. Here's a girl's Christmas ornament. And so we already had the boys one, but I think this is the first girl's Christmas ornament we've seen. Another engagement one. Our first Christmas married. So this one looks like a baby girl's first Christmas. They're using those keywords, and it seems to be themed more for a girl, but it's first Christmas. And so we had baby's first Christmas, we have boy Christmas, and we have girl Christmas, but I think this one is unique. So let's say girl's first Christmas ornament. Then our next one on the list, that's another engagement one. We'll mark that with an X. Our next one here, First Christmas is Mr. and Mrs. And then another girl's ornament, which we already have. And so we've gone through about 50 listings here. And through those 50 listings, we've seen a lot of duplicates, but we've started to pull out those unique micro markets. And so what we have through those first 50 is about 16. And so what I'd encourage you guys to do is to continue through this list, build your own list and go through this process. And like I said, don't take shortcuts, spend the time, spend the hours to put in this work. And I promise it'll serve you in your business and pay off. You'll become so confident in the work that you do, go all the way down to those 20 lifetime sales. And like I said, just spend the time doing it. And yeah, it's really going to serve you guys. It gives you that blueprint. It gives you that confidence and that clarity going forward. And so we're going to jump back into the slides of the video here. And that's the end of the tutorial part of this video. All right, guys. So as promised, we are going to give you guys a free download of our exact ornament list that we just showed you in that tutorial. So there'll be a link down in the description where you guys can download that Google Sheets file. We already got you guys started. Like I showed, we went through those first 50 or so listings. And so everything's already formatted. You guys have a jump start on that. You can even add more shops to that list if you wanted to. But that'll get you guys started and get you headed in the right direction so that you can confidently start to follow this exact research process that we follow as well.
Great. And also something to note, you guys, something big is coming down the pipeline. So join our email list and you will be the first to find out what it is. If you are not interested in the Google Sheet that Connor just talked about, we still encourage you, and it's worth your time to still put your email in, because that's going to be how you know what is coming down in the future. So make sure you get your email in there, make sure you're signed up, so that you can hear the big news that's coming down soon.
So that wraps up episode 3. In episode 4, we're going to be diving even deeper into our list and starting to learn about the design attributes that make up the best-selling designs within our product category. You guys don't want to miss it.
And also, if you guys are new here or interested in learning more about us and our story, go check out our first podcast that we just started, and you can do that here. Thanks.